AI is a bubble that is eventually going to pop. I said it. AI is a bubble. Now I'm recording this video because I really want to give you guys my predictions on what I think is going to happen with AI. And I want to be able to have this video so I can come back to it 5 years from now to see if my predictions ended up being true. Now I'm going to relate this to, the photography and videography industry. But first I want to just speak high level on what my predictions are. Now, my first prediction is that AI is going to run its course. Now, if you think about how our society works, there's levels to everything. There's tiers, there's factions, there's groups of people, there's hierarchy. It exists. If you were to take a place like Nobu, the fancy restaurant, if you were to take a place like Nobu and the government decided that they were going to subsidize so that anybody that wanted to eat at Nobu could go to Nobu, regardless of how much money you made, regardless of how much money you have. If a meal was $200 and you only had $25, the government would give you another $175, so that way you could eat at Nobu. It would take a very short amount of time before the elite, the upper echelon, the people that go to Nobu today would find somewhere else to go. Because if there's one thing that always exists and is very consistent, is that people that have do not like associating in close quarters with the people that do not have. So if you have these ultra wealthy people at Nobu and they're having to sit next to what they consider to be the slums, people that don't have money, and everybody was on the same playing field, those wealthy people would find somewhere else to go because they always want to be above the people that are below them. Our world is not like a level playing field, and we see that all the time. It just doesn't exist. It's just not something that society wants because the people that have just don't want to associate with the people that don't. And so the thing about AI is that it is starting to level the playing field, right? There once was a time where the things that AI is doing, you had to be very intelligent to be able to do. You had to be very skilled at creating things to be able to do it, or you had to have the resources and the money to be able to do these things. Where now the average Joe has access to these things in the same way that the super smart, the super wealthy, the super resourceful once had access to. Now everybody is starting to have access to that. And so that playing field is starting to level. And it is only a matter of time before the people that have no longer want to be associated with the people that did not have, and things are going to change. So my first prediction is that AI is going to get to a point where it's going to be played out because the people that have are going to migrate to something else to differentiate themselves from it, and then AI is going to lose its value, it's going to lose its punch, it's going to lose its relevancy. That's number one. Number two, AI is eventually going to be behind a very much more expensive paywall. So right now, most AI things are free or they cost very little, whether it's, image generation that is pennies on the dollar, or, your Chat GPT and Claude and things like that, where it might be $20, $30 a month. That is eventually going to change, and it's going to get a lot more expensive. Now, the reason why, there's two reasons why the system that's in place right now exists the way that it exists. Number one, all of these platforms, they need data. Okay, so AI, although it has come a long way and it is very advanced, it still is being developed, and they still need a lot of data to be able to do that. And so, of course, if they were to put things behind a paywall now, that limits the amount of data that they can get. So they want all of this data so that they can train their models, build their models, and then once they get to a point where it's solid and they no longer need data, there's going to be a lot of value in that software. Number two, they are training people to be accustomed to having these tools behind the paywall. So even though, to generate an image, it may only be 3 cents, 4 cents, 5 cents, 6 credits, 10 credits. It is training you to be used to that methodology. so that when it gets to a point where they're starting to charge more, you've already been conditioned, so you don't really have like this shock, this immediate shock of going from everything was free to everything was paid. But it will get to a point where there's going to be a lot of value in these AI tools, and it is going to be behind a very, maybe not very expensive, but it is going to be behind a cost prohibitive for most expensive paywall. And you're going to have a lot of people that will have built businesses and platforms and all of these things around AI that is going to be in a lot of trouble, because now it's going to cost a lot more money to access those tools. We're going to get to a point where the free version of AI is going to have ads, and now the information that you're given is no longer going to be, which, first of all, the information that you get from AI a lot of times is not as accurate as what people think. I really wish people would realize that the stuff that you get back from, your chat GPTs and Claude and things like that, it's not as accurate and on point as you may think that it is. But imagine how less so that will be when it gets to a point where advertisers are starting to pay money to these software companies, and now what you're getting back is funneling you towards a particular brand or product or service or whatever, versus just giving you unbiased information. It will get there. If you think about any platform that went from something small and exciting to where it is now, if you look at Instagram, if you look at Facebook, if you look at Twitter, any of the social media platforms, if you look at LinkedIn, all of these things started as a tool or a platform to either help or entertain you. And it was very simple. The content that you saw was what you wanted to see. There wasn't any ads. It didn't cost you any money. And if you fast forward to today, even LinkedIn, every other post is an ad. Oh, if you want to do this, you have to pay. Nothing is free anymore. Instagram, oh, you want reach on your post, you have to pay. You want to grow your audience, you have to pay. YouTube, oh, you don't want these ads, you have to pay. Everything is behind a paywall, and all of these things at one point in time were revolutionary, and they were new, and they were exciting, and they were free. And look at where those are now. To think that AI would not follow suit would be foolish, in my opinion. It would be absolutely foolish. It is 100% going to follow that same path. And going back to what I said about, leveling the playing field, that's ultimately going to be the driver, because you're going to have a lot of things where now people have access to abilities that they don't truly possess themselves. And so now you are going to be on the same playing field as someone who actually does possess those abilities, and it's only a matter of time before they no longer want to accept that, and they're going to do things to differentiate themselves from those people that don't have those abilities. It's going to happen, and that's honestly why I really feel that AI is a bubble. Because right now it's new, it's exciting. And so when people, and then now to correlate this into, photography and videography in our industry, film industry and all of these things, when people are like, it's going to kill the photography industry, it's going to kill the videography industry, it's going to kill the film industry, and they're just going to create films with AI and they're not going to use people. That sounds relevant now, because where we are in the stage and the life cycle of AI, that seems very applicable and it makes a lot of sense. But if you look at it in a bigger picture and you look at the longer timeline, and if you look at history of how things like this have gone, and granted, AI is something different. This is something that, in a lot of ways we've never seen before, but it's also very similar to a lot of things that we've seen before, and history repeats itself. We know that. So when people are talking about these industries are dead, I vehemently disagree. I think AI is going to cripple our industry temporarily until people realize that AI is not the savior, or it's not the way to go that they thought that it was going to go. Now, of course, yes, in a lot of ways, it's cost savings, right? If you are a company and you used to pay for product photography, is it enticing for you to just take a picture with your cell phone of a product and then upload it and get 50 variations of that product? Absolutely, right? And in that realm, product photography may forever be changed. It may never go back to what it used to be. But you still will have the argument of what type of audience are you trying to build? When I have potential clients reach out to me, or clients reach out to me and they ask me about AI and they say, what are your thoughts on, us using AI? My response is always the same. Do you value building trust with your audience, right? Is trust a core value of your brand or business? Is your target market, them having trust in you, is that important to you or your brand or your business? If it's not, take Amazon, for example. AI is a pretty useful tool for you to use because it doesn't really matter. If at the end of the day, you just want content to be able to post and trust is not one of your core values, you're going to lean towards AI every time. On the opposite end of that, if trust is important to you, I always say AI is not the way to go, because you're not going to build trust with someone using AI. The example that I always give, and the example that I will give you, if I was sitting here right now and I'm speaking to you and I'm saying all the things that I'm saying to you, but I'm being fed all of the information from someone that was standing right here. Everything that I'm saying to you, they're whispering it in my ear, and then I'm saying that information to you. You're never going to build trust with me, because everything that I'm saying to you isn't coming from me. It's coming from someone else. So no matter what I'm saying to you, no matter how relevant it is, no matter how thought-provoking it is, no matter how it makes you feel, you're always going to still stick with, it didn't come from Anthony, it came from the person that was next to him. So you're not going to trust me, right? If you saw me out and you asked me something, you wouldn't ask me something that you felt like, okay, I really need this information. I'm really going to value the response. You wouldn't ask me because you'd be like, well, nothing that he's ever told me came from him. So why would I ask him? He doesn't know. You would go to the other person. So when you have a brand or a business, it's the same thing. When you're using AI for, your marketing and your photos and your website and this and this and this and this, you do absolutely nothing to help your customers trust you and believe in you, because nothing that you've presented to them is you. It's all something else, someone else. And so it really comes down to what's important. Now, that was a little bit of a divergent. Everybody is going to be using it. Everyone is going to be putting out the same stuff, and people are going to grow tired of it. And I also think that we are approaching dangerous grounds in the realm of, number one, there really is no ethics. There's no control around AI. And as companies try to do that, bigger companies and governmental entities, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, we know why, but they're pushing back on that. But we're entering a dangerous territory, because up until the point of AI, video and photo was all the proof you needed to prove something, right? If someone wanted to, if you got charged with something and they wanted to say that it was you, video and photo would help them do that. If they had video of you at the store, doing XYZ, that was pretty solid evidence. And that would be pretty convincing for most juries. If they had photos of this, if you get one of those tickets in the mail and they have a photo of your vehicle and the license plate and you running the light, that's pretty solid proof. And in most courts, that would be enough for them to say, yeah, that was you. But now we're approaching a world where you're not going to be able to trust what you see anymore. And I think that's going to be the biggest driver of society being pushed in a different direction from AI, because it's only going to take enough situations where people are falsely put in places and situations that they were not in, or people's word being questioned, because even though you have this video proof or you have this photo proof, is that real? And as AI gets more and more realistic, it's going to be more and more difficult and challenging to be able to say this is real versus it not being real. When we lose the ability to prove truth, And media has been the one thing that has been the most solid way to validate truth. When we lose that, what happens to society? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if police want to charge you with something and say, yeah, you were here, and they present all of, video and photos of you being there, and you're saying you're not, which one do you think is going to trump? So we're really getting into a very dangerous territory, but I also think that's going to be the thing that pushes people to say, we've got to find a way to prove that things are authentic. And that is going to be another thing that's going to take away from, AI and what it can do. Do you think it's a bubble? Do you think it's going to forever kill industries? Now, speaking of that, let me segue back to film just for a quick second, and I'm in this video. When people talk about film dying and actors and actresses being in trouble because these movie studios are just going to use AI to create their films, I immediately push back on that for one core reason. The thing that helps films be successful, the thing that helps films make money, is the fan connection, right? When you think about like the DC and the Marvel movies and things like that, it isn't so much the movies themselves that make all of this money. It's the fan connection to the people in those movies. That's the reason why there's always uproar or praise when someone gets casted for something. There's so much emotion behind it. If people only cared about the visuals of the movies, they wouldn't care about who got casted for something. That would be completely irrelevant. But there's a reason why there's so much passion behind it, and it's because people attach themselves to people. And so if you started to make films that were 100% AI, number one, you lose that connection. But number two, one of, if not the bigger sources of income for films is what happens after the film is released. So, you have merchandise, you have meet and greets, you have, whatever things that the actors or actresses are doing. There's a lot of money there. It's very similar to artists going on tour, right? They make most of their money on tour. And that's not something that you can replace with AI. No one's going to go to a concert and see a holographic image of someone that is real and exists if it was of them, but they're not going to do that for someone that's completely made up and fake. They're not going to spend the money. You're not going to be able to command Beyonce ticket prices for a hologram or for an AI figure. So there's a lot of money behind the people behind film and behind music. And that's going to be the thing that you can't replace with AI. And so when people, say the film industry is just going to go to using AI completely, I completely disagree, because they would leave a lot of money on the table. Sure, you're going to save a lot of money in making a film, but a lot of films have, a $20 million budget and they gross 150 mil. Right. So if you save 20 million, and you, instead of it costing you 20 million to make a film, you made it with 2 million. So you saved 18, but you're going to lose a lot of the money on the back end. So it's going to cost you more money in the long run to create something via AI versus it would be to create it real. Do I think they're going to use AI? Absolutely. The same way that they use CGI today, absolutely. They'll use AI when it makes sense, for something that will cost a lot of money for, 30 seconds of the movie. Sure. Do I think AI is going to replace that? I don't. And, to a degree, I think people are very short-sighted in the impact that AI is going to have. It's going to have a lot of impact, and it isn't going to be replacing industry. It's going to have an impact on humankind and society, but I don't think it's really going to kill any particular industry. It's going to change it. It's not going to kill it, because history has shown that that's just not the case.